Hey everybody, welcome back to my journey. This part of my journey is about the neuropathy, not neuropathy. So I had a appointment with the neuromuscular specialist today, and basically PT, physical therapy has helped with some pain, a little bit with the plantar fasciitis pain down the middle of my foot, and then also a little bit of the lower back. And thought there might be something else that I told him, but I can't remember now. So, yeah, I can't remember if I told him anything else. That's all I can think of right now. I thought there was a third thing though. But it's helped a little bit with those things, but I still have the pains in both those areas from time to time. And so right now, the doctor wants to rule out myopathy, because right now everything else is fine. My B12 is fine, my vitamin D is fine, A1C is fine. He did, like I talked about previously, he did another EMG and NCD test, and it contradicted the first test, and so it was fine. So he's checking my CK. I forget what that stands for, but it has to do with muscle breakdown. And so he wants to rule that out, and if that comes back fine, then it's probably the diagnosis that we're looking at is fibromyalgia, which I've been dealing with for years. I've been blaming the pains that led to all this on that for years, and so we're back at that, unless science finds a reason for my pain. So, sorry, that meowing is Fangs. She's down exploring the basement because she's been upstairs all day, and there's a spot on the wall that she thought was a bug, but it's actually just a screw or something. So, we're going to get that checked. I don't expect that it'll come back myopathy, because if I have muscle deterioration going on, I would expect to see some atrophy going on as well, and I don't show any signs of atrophy. And the reason why I say that is because as long as I've had this pain for years. I've had it since at least college, that we're talking about the foot pain and stuff. Shortly after college, and then it's been progressively getting worse. So I finished college almost 20 years ago. So if I was having muscle deterioration, I would expect some atrophy by now, and I'm not showing any signs of atrophy. So we'll see. We'll go ahead and do the test, see what it comes up. I don't expect it to show anything wrong, and we'll go from there. He wants me to keep doing physical therapy, and so I'll keep doing that. And he wants me to keep losing weight, which I'm doing. And in fact, cut my salad right here, because I'm going to watch a movie after this. So continuing with that, and then he also wants me to start doing some counseling with a counselor who specializes in chronic pain. And the reason for this, and he was careful about the way he worded this, because in the information that I gave him today, I mentioned my traumas that I'd had. as a kid. I've stepped on nails. I've stepped on nails 3 times in my life. The one time as a kid, I remember I had dress shoes or something on. I don't know what I was doing, but I was taking my feet and placing them in between nails on a board, and missed the space and hit the nail, and it went through the dress shoe and into my foot. Don't ask. I was a klutz as a kid. So that time, and then I know one time when they were working on my driveway for the house, they had to tear up the whole driveway and fix the leaking that I had in the basement. I had 5 cinder blocks that rotted out. And all the stuff they had pulled up, I was out watching them one day, had my flip-flops on, went to stand up, and when I stood up, I put my foot down on a board that had a nail. I should have known better. It was totally my fault. I went and watered off my foot, and then I put my flip-flop back on and drove to the doctor's office. And there was a 3rd time, but I can't remember what it was. I just know that there were 3 times. Sorry for the shininess. I don't have any powder on or anything. So there was that trauma. The other trauma that I had, big trauma that I can think of physically, was I was bucked off a horse onto chip and tar. Landed on the left side of my body. I've got a scar right here, which you can't. You can kind of see it right there. It's old now. I've got a scar on my knee, and because my knee, my wrist, and then my left hip hit the ground when I fell. And my father watched the whole thing from behind and thought I broke my back because I immediately drew my feet up because I tried to stand up, and I couldn't because the wind was knocked out of me. But Dad didn't see me draw my feet up. He just saw the bucking and me fall. And so there was another physical trauma to the body. But I had these pains before that happened. So now I just have lumpier rolls on my left side. It redistributed the fat cells. And not in the good way. So there was that trauma. And then the other trauma that I listed is it could have been a physical trauma, but for me, I don't feel it was a physical trauma. I think it was an emotional trauma. And that was, I was raped when I was 16. There is, I had put on my paperwork that I gave him, I said, I don't feel that this has caused my pain that's going on. That being said, there is a link between depression and pain, and it's a cyclical factor, and they make each other worse. They feed each other. And so having to overcome that, you know, being mindful of your true pain versus the pain you're feeling, for a lack of a way of putting it. I mean, because pain is pain. If you're in pain, you're in pain. But helping your mind sort out what the actual pain level is and that sort of thing. And then also, because you're in pain all the time, it adds to the depression. And so they feed each other, make things worse, and that sort of thing. So that being said, my doctor said that they have shown that sexual assaults, traumas, can rewire the brain and make folks more hypersensitive to pain. And so I said to him, yeah, but there's certain pains where, you know, people say, well, I would have expected you to act worse than that. Like July 4th, I got stung by a wasp right here on the wrist, right on the sensitive part of the wrist. Saw one of the kitties. I cussed. I put my hand over my wrist, and I just stood there for a minute, and Dad was like, "Are you okay? Did you get stung?" Because he didn't see what happened. I said, "Yeah, I think a wasp stung me." And he was like, "Boy, I'd be crying by now." Or cussing more or something like that, because he was surprised I didn't act out more than I did. So I, you know, put ice on it, waited about 15 minutes, and then I was back to hosing off the deck and that sort of thing. So there was that type of pain that people expected me to act worse too. I recently had an appendectomy done, and so that happened on I got diagnosed on a Wednesday night, got to the hospital Wednesday night, but the surgery didn't happen until 3:30 in the morning, Thursday morning. And then I was allowed to leave the hospital by noon, but I was there until about 4 or 5 on Thursday. So I took off work Friday and then worked Saturday and Sunday. The main reason why I went ahead and went to work was, there's not a lot of lifting and that sort of thing with my job, so I wasn't worried about that. And I knew to just walk gently and hold my stomach and kind of go from there. Everybody that didn't know me thought I was pregnant, and you know, so no big deal. I was able to manage through work. Didn't take any pain medication. At that time, I was on diclofenac, so I wasn't even taking the Aleve. So I wasn't taking any pain meds at all, not even over-the-counter pain meds, because I was already on diclofenac, which is an anti-inflammatory. It's not a painkiller, but it's an anti-inflammatory. Did okay, not too bad. A little bit of headaches from, you know, just stress, tension headaches, but not too bad. Did just fine. Now, if I'd had extra paid time off, I probably would have taken it, just so I'm not stressing the body out. But I already had my planned time off planned. I was going to a football game out of town 2 weeks later. And so I wasn't about to miss that. I already had paid for my tickets and everything. So I went to that. I had that pain. It wasn't too bad. Didn't have to have any pain meds, no pain medication, other than the pain medication that they gave me while I was in the hospital. That's all I'd had. So I mentioned those things to him, and he said, I realized I'm rambling a bit, sorry about that. Mentioned those to him, and he said, well, it makes sense because your brain is able to figure out where that pain's coming from. So it says, oh, this is why you're hurting, it's going to be going away soon, I can deal. You know, it sees, basically your body sees the light at the end of the tunnel. So it's not too hard to reason out the pain that you're having there. But when you have unknown pain, you're in this land of what if and limbo, and you know, where's the pain coming from? How can I control it? Is there an end to it? And on and on. And so, long story short, I'm going to be doing some research and seeing if I can find a counselor who specializes in chronic pain. I'm a counselor myself, and so I know there aren't a lot of them that specialize in it. There might be some that say they specialize in it. One of the things I'll know to ask for is their training, and kind of go from there. Also, I need a counselor that doesn't mind working with a counselor, because we're probably the worst patients. But kind of go from there and see how things go. I'm going to see the neurologist again in 6 months. Hopefully I've lost more weight by then. Hopefully the physical therapy continues to help. Hopefully I can get my exercise back on level again so that it doesn't hurt to work out. You know, that's one of my frustrating things also in this. And when I'm tired and frustrated, I kind of lash out at the people that are trying to help me, and I don't necessarily mean to. I was very active in high school, very active in college. I unfortunately was a jack of all trades with sports, but I did softball for 2 years, I think. I did basketball 1 year. I did gymnastics. I did track, cheerleading. I think those are all the sports I did that I was on a team of. And of course, then there was gym class where we did volleyball and, well, dodgeball, I guess, is a sport. Did all sorts of things. Very active. I did my training. I did my calisthenics. In college, I didn't play any sports in college as far as being on a team, but I did strength training 1 year for an elective, and continued to do the strength training. I really like doing strength training. Unfortunately, it's become hard on my wrists and my ankles, and so I haven't done it as much. I haven't done it since it started hurting. I had a total gym for a while, and I was using it all the time. So I did that. I played tennis as one of my electives. I walked everywhere in college. We had a bus that called the Loop that went around campus and downtown and on campus. I didn't even use it all that much. I used it a handful of times, maybe in the wintertime. But otherwise, I walked everywhere on campus, and from corner to corner on the main part of campus, from the west halls to the east halls, which were kind of, or not east halls, south halls, which were kind of diagonal from each other. And they're opposite corners of the square, even though one is west and one is south. They're the opposite corners of the triangle, or not triangle. I really am good at math and geometry. The rectangle, opposite ends of the rectangle. It took 15 to 20 minutes to walk from corner to corner of those dorms. So it's, you know, a fairly big campus, and then you've got the buildings that are on the outskirts, like across one of the main streets that go through. The campus has expanded and expanded, and so, but going from dorm to dorm, corner to corner, 15 to 20 minutes. So I walked everywhere all the time. I didn't really run. I'm not a runner. I don't like running. Even though I did track, it's just boring to me. I have cousins that do running. The one does a marathon a lot, but it's just not my thing. So even in college, I was very active and worked out. Summers, I went to school in the summers, but when I was down visiting Dad, I would always, well, and he did this all year round. So when I was down visiting Dad, I would play basketball in the mornings with him and his friends. Once I was old enough to play with them. So high school and college, I actually played with them. Otherwise, my sister and I just stayed there on the outskirts of the gym floor while he did basketball in the mornings. I swam all the time in the summertime. If that pool was open, I was at the pool. The only time I was not in the pool is when they made us get out because it was lightning. And I'd get out of the pool sometimes and my lips were purple because I was so cold. But, you know, swam all the time. So it's very active. It's very frustrating sometimes to be told, and the doctor said this today, and I nodded because I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, it almost feels like they don't understand what I'm saying, and that can be frustrating. And they might understand what I'm saying and are still trying to push the message, which is possible. There's a difference between muscle pain from working out and working hard and the lactic acid buildup and using muscles you haven't used in a while. And that sort of thing. But when you go from active to not being very active because of pain, it's just frustrating. So I don't know what else to say about that, because there's just no easy way to put it. And we'll just leave it at that. So the exercise I'm doing right now is just the stationary bike. I need to get my living room cleaned up, and once I do, I'm going to see if I can do the different areas of the Slim and Six or the Power Half Hour programs that I have. I know I can't do the full amount, but at least the stretch warm-up parts, I'm going to see if I can do those. They have yoga at the end, which is not too bad. So I might not be able to do the full program, but picking out the areas that I can do, I'll try to do those again. It's been a few years since I've tried it. And since my foot pain is better, and I'm able to do things like stand and prep my meals for work in one standing rather than having to take lots of breaks, I'd say I'm doing better. I can make the bed now all in one bed making rather than having to take a break. The only struggle I'm going to have, the biggest struggle I'm going to have right now, is the fact that I have no air conditioning, and so it's really hot in my house, so hopefully things won't be too bad and I'll be okay. So we'll see how things go. So continue what I'm doing already, get a new counselor, or not get a new counselor, but get a counselor, and see them in 6 months, and get my CK checked. And we'll see how things go. So it might be a while before there's an update on my pain thing. I guess at the 6-month checkup, I'll know whether to change the title of this journey and kind of go from there. But thanks for listening to my rambling, and I hope everybody has a good day. Thanks. Bye.